Thanks everybody for joining us. We're here to talk about One Battle After Another, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, and we're here with producer Sara Murphy and cinematographer Mike Bauman. Thank you so much for joining us. Round of applause. All right, so yeah, thanks for coming out to this cozy bungalow to share a little bit about the experience of making this movie and to talk about the creative process. So both of you have worked on other previous projects with Paul. Can you tell us a little bit about how Paul approached each of you about this project and what your initial reaction was?
Hello, everyone. So Paul initially was just talking about he had shown me the script early in the process, and was just kind of talking a bit about the concept and what the idea was, and it was clearly a lot larger project than what I had done with him previously. This was my fifth project with him. The scale and scope was much larger than anything we'd taken on before. So it was I was like, all right, wow, this is going to be a very different experience,
You were like, what?
No, I think, Paul had been developing this project for many years, like 20 years in some shape or form. And the script had evolved and taken new paths. So it was always lingering in the back as something that I think was going to be the next thing, but we were always sort of waiting, and other things would work their way in. So when he finally called about this one, it was really exciting. He was a long time coming, and it did feel like, okay, yes, I think we're ready, because it was big. It was bigger scale, bigger story, bigger stakes, which is always very exciting, but intimidating. But yeah, I think we had heard for years, like, okay, I'm ready to make this one, and then he would always, pivot a couple times. So it was exciting, I think, this time around, where we're like, wait, I think you are ready. I think you're doing it.
It's happening.
Yeah, we're doing it.
It's awesome. Can you tell us about how each of your relationships have evolved with Paul over time? Sara, you produced some music videos with him early on, I believe, right? Before producing Licorice Pizza. And then Mike, as you mentioned, you did 5 films with Paul, first as a gaffer, and then collaborated with him on Licorice Pizza as well as a cinematographer, and now stepped up as a solo cinematographer on this film. So that's a many-year collaboration. Can we talk a little bit about how that relationship has evolved over the years?
I did start working in music videos with Paul. I had been making a bunch of small independent films, like tiny micro budgets, and I remember I got this call one day from him, and he was like, I hear you. I had known him through Philip Seymour Hoffman, who I worked with from again, and he called me and he's like, I hear you know how to make things with no money. And I was like, I suppose I do. I wish I didn't have that reputation, actually. But anyway, that launched a long sort of music video collaboration. We did some radio. We did Joanne Newsom, and then Radiohead. He has incredible heads of departments, so it's always a very fun thing to, although getting the call is intimidating, because you always know it's going to be scary and challenging, but then know you'd have a great team of people to work with to figure out how you're going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was like, I think, I started working with him back on The Master as gaffer with the film Mihai I was shooting at, and then ended up gaffing Inherent Vice with Robert Elswit. And then, we were doing, we did a couple of, we did at least one Radiohead video, and he was like, and it was basically the two of us kind of putting the whole thing visually together, and he was like, what do you think if we did a movie this way? And then we ended up doing Fan Thread, and I took the title of Lighting Cameraman, which is kind of a tribute to the relationship that John Alcott and Stanley Kubrick had on Barry Lyndon, which is our main inspirational for that. And then we tried that on Licorice Pizza, which is quite a journey, and then onto this thing. So
yeah, very cool. Sara, you mentioned being known as the person who knows how to do stuff on a low budget, and this film obviously had a very big budget. So can you talk a little bit about what that was like, kind of stepping into this newer budget level, and what maybe some of the challenges were, um, to kind of level up in that way, but also maybe some of the exciting aspects of that as well, the new parts of it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to some degree, I think they're all a little bit the same. I think you come up with the same challenge. You never have enough money, no matter how much money you have. But I do think it was, was also very fun. I mean, let's be honest. I think that the scope of the film demanded resources, and it was very fun to be able to have those resources and figure out how to prioritize them. But it was a massive undertaking. I think we started up in Eureka. We went all the way through California, a little bit in El Paso, down all the way to San Diego at the border, and it was a traveling circus, and it was shot over 7 months. It was kind of a massive undertaking, and we had to reinvent several times along the way. Sort of grateful for the resources along the way.
Yeah. And Mike, you've got some major studio films over the years. Tell us if you pulled from that experience a little bit when stepping up into this cinematographer role on a film of this scale. Like, did any of the kind of lessons as a gaffer, or maybe some of the cinematographers that you worked with from that part of your career, influence any of the choices or decisions that you made when working at this scale?
Yeah, I think one of the things I feel really lucky to have been in my career is worked with a bunch of different cinematographers, and so you see everybody's process is very different, and how you handle problems and just approach. And I think I did get to do one project with Harris Savitas before he passed. Harris was always about like, let's just keep it simple and be open to making mistakes, because good things come from mistakes, and that was kind of his MO. And that was like really, it fit very well with kind of the approach we're going to use on this. Is just really taking this thing and like Sara said, this was a very sort of in certain ways unconventional as far as the production approach and things. And so it was really about just wrapping your arms around it for what this is, and you just hang on for the ride. And so I was all this, the years of like being a gaffer, I was like, okay, cool, yeah, we can handle whatever's gonna go down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great that you mentioned that, because I think the film is imbued with that spirit, and I think that it comes across in the filmmaking as well, and it lends the film this kind of roughness that that I think is so crucial to the experience of watching it, and the feeling of the story as it unfolds. So was that also, in addition to kind of the logistics, a part of the creator conversation that you had with Paul? Like, was that part of the design of the visual style of the film? And can you talk a little bit about that conversation? Like, what were the conversations with Paul designing the visual look of the film, basically?
Yeah, I think the strongest visual reference was French Connection and The Last Detail and some of these other like 70s, that period of 70s cinema, which really kind of resonated with him. He was definitely like, as much as this thing was a massive undertaking with like, a lot of new things, action and guns and stunts and, a bunch of stuff that he hasn't really done in his past projects, he still wanted to make it like an independent movie.
Yeah.
And so it was like, get rid of the trucks, he went out and he bought on eBay 3 kits, Lowell Totolite kit, that had the umbrellas. He's like, what do you think if we lit the movie with these things? Yeah, sure. Okay, cool. And it was that kind of like, it was just kind of, this is how, it's like loosen the bolts and let's go type of thing. And so that was across the board.
Yeah, there was a lot of, obviously a lot of prep went into creating environments where I think it could feel spontaneous and organic and, small, actually. So we did, although there was a lot of infrastructure around the production, the shooting days were actually quite small, intimate group of people on set. We don't do monitors, we don't do last books, we don't do those sorts of things. So it's like once you get up into a location, it's really him and his actors and his core team.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really relatable filmmaking style. I think that's really cool. So in terms of the day-to-day on set, Like once you're in that core group, what is the actual filmmaking process like? I mean, there's a lot of filmmakers in the room. I think would be interested to hear like what it's actually like to work with Paul on set. Like how much of this is designed versus kind of discovered on the day, if you will, in terms of the blocking, the shots, the actual images that end up on screen. Like what is the actual kind of process like? Can you talk about that experience a little bit?
It's definitely what was interesting about this one that's different from some of the other ones is that this project there was a lot like Sara mentioned, we really kind of like try to create environments where the actors could move around a lot, do stuff. And so a lot of times the first round of blocking is not even with the actors, it's with the crew. And like we don't have stand-ins or anything like that. It's like whoever the crew is going to be standing in. And so a lot of times you're lighting a face that doesn't, you're lighting, someone who's not even the right gender or or height or whatever or anything. It's just like whoever there is, you're standing there, great, come here, you're gonna stand in. And it's just that kind of a thing. And so it's you'll block it out with a crew and then see how that feels and just get some ideas, and then the cast will come in and they'll kind of work through it. And sometimes they don't slouch, they bring a lot to the party, and there's a lot of scenes in the film that just things were happening and you needed to grab onto those moments when they happen. And so you just had to be ready to, and I think it speaks to what Sara just said about the core team just being of the right mindset of being able to roll with it, because there are so many moments that it would have been easy to just been like, F this, and this is ridiculous. And you just had to be like, okay, I'm going to find my zen. We're going to figure out how to make this work. And that was really what kind of just kept it going, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think, as we they had done extensive scouting for
Forever.
3 years to find some of these locations. So I think, we had, as much as we had a flight plan and we had a script, I think there was a lot that came from the actors finally showing up and really kind of organically understanding the circumstances of our real locations, which is how we found sort of the whole plot in El Paso with Benicio. Was very much Benicio coming in with a whole bunch of ideas, but also seeing what the environment offered up. And similarly with the sort of raid scene at the beginning, that was sort of something we found at the tail end of our shoot. And once we kind of understood the tone of where we landed, how grounded we were as a film overall, and sort of what that needed to feel like. So it sort of had the opportunity to find itself along the way. And there were a couple of incredible script moments where it would be like, action TBD. So we had to work through those too along the way.
Yeah, I always love seeing that in the script. Like, okay, well,
Yeah, we'll just riff something up. It's
Yeah.
free jazz. The other thing with Paul is that, sometimes we'd shoot the scene and then we'd come back a couple days later and shoot it again. And it was just because, you'd look at footage and you'd be like, you know what, I think we can do it better this way, or the actors would bring something to the party, or different concepts and ideas. So you kind of had to have this bit of elasticity on some of the sets that you can just come, like Sensei's dojo was one of them, and another, probably a bunch of others. But yeah, I mean, it's just.
Final showdown scene.
Oh yeah, exactly. So there's just a lot of different things that we just keep going. Reshoot.
that's really cool. I'm gonna open it up to audience questions in a minute, but before that, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask both of you about the resurrection of VistaVision for this project, which has been kind of a big part of the conversation around the film and the marketing. And this isn't the first film to do this recently. We saw a scene in Poor Things do this and The Brutalists recently. And I think, did this originate on the Tom York project?
Yeah.
Was that on VistaVision? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think the seeds must have been planted there. But so can you talk a little bit about that idea kind of originated from there, and then Mike kind of talk about the experience of working with this format on set and what that entailed?
I can speak a little bit to the origin. I mean, I think he'd been thinking about it for a long time.
Yeah.
I think there was not a lot of access to the cameras, which made it difficult. And the couple cameras that we did have access to were not in the best shape. So the idea of doing an entire feature film felt like probably not a wise undertaking until we got to this one. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an incredible format. We did spend several years sort of prepping the cameras that we were going to use, and also making sure we had all the film stock we were going to use, and making sure the lab was ready for it. It was like a very long game to get there.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I mean, I think the things were challenges, like Sarah said, the cameras were, we ran 1.5 million feet of film through to make this thing happen. And I mean, a lot of that is because Vista is a perf, so it's twice as fast as how much film it consumes. But the Bocam, which is the system we ended up with, we got one camera, which was in pretty good shape, which is great shape actually, which is from Giovanni Ribisi, who he's got he's a gearhead, love him. And the other two came from, I think, Geofilm Group in the Valley. And so, but VistaVision is designed to be put on a tripod, and you just get a great, really, you sit there and, okay, let's get the beautiful establishing shot.
That's it.
Yeah. And it's big, and it's like, okay, it's not designed to like get strapped to a car and work on a Steadicam and, be just put in all these situations. And with Paul, you don't really shoot on stage, you shoot all practical locations. So sound is if you ever turn one of these things on, it's basically like having a lawnmower on the set. And so we had to design and build a blimp which would work for it. But that was huge. And so it was really trying to figure out, and some of them had problems with sync. It was just like a myriad stuff. And then we figured out, like, okay, with 1,000-foot mag, that's just about 5 minutes of filming, because you're running at a perf. The camera doesn't really like 1,000 feet, it likes 800 feet, so it doesn't jam. So then you've got 4 minutes to shoot stuff with. And you don't get 800-foot rolls. So then Jackson, our loader, had to cut them down. And it's just a lot of machinery that we learned while we were kind of making this thing. So, but it's a great, it's just such a unique experience to work with this. And I'd certainly absolutely do it again, because it would be easier this time, so it's not so much. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll see it on the next movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take some questions. Yes, right here in the front.
First of all, great job. Let's fulfill. Favorite shot for me was the end rogue sequence, just kind of like driving up and down that kind of wheel. I was like, what is about to happen? My question, I found it interesting that you guys would shoot no monitors and you say no rehearsal takes, or was it just like no monitors and something else you said?
Oh, last looks.
Last looks. Yeah. Like, how? Why?
The why is always good.
Yeah. For a business of film, what is that process like, and why did you make those decisions?
I mean, I just say we have like one little monitor that we can't, that we have, and that Jillian script could see also. So there's a few of them, but it's not like anything like, you're on like sets are now, where there's like 50 monitors everywhere, and you can see it at craft service if you want, and it's on Q-Take, and you can look at it on your phone. It's nothing like that at all. And so I think it's a lot about, it goes to what Sara said earlier, is just the intimacy of the filming experience. And he was like, I don't want hair and makeup here. And in fact, they when they hit some like hat or something they made, which is like, we were never here. It's there. And even so in the morning they do the touch ups, but it was just, this is how we're gonna make this thing. And it was a change for a lot of folk. It was definitely, not everybody's on board with it. And but again, at the end of the day, that was how he wanted to make the movie. So.
Well, I think we had the benefit for the first time with Paul for a long time that the film was contemporary, so we had a little bit more leeway there, and then we're trying to match any elaborate time, and I think the actors were on board, so they were sort of in control of maintaining their look throughout the day. But yeah, it was about the intimacy, and I think that's why he insists on it. But there's no video village. Like, me and my fellow producer, we just stand on a ridge half a mile away and be like, yeah, this is looking good. I think but you trust the team on the ground. Paul obviously knows when he's at it. But we also do what is kind of the greatest thing ever is that you runs film dailies every day. And which is obviously incredible privilege, but we do ship film back and forth, and it comes back to us, and I set up a booth, and we watch it as a company every night, and everybody's invited, or anybody's invited, actors and crew, so that we can assess what we're actually getting, so that we can make those decisions very immediately, whether we need to stay there and do another day or whether we can move on. But I think Paul, once he was on, he kind of knows we're not coming back. So, but it's an incredible privilege.
Yeah. Film dailies. Come on.
Very cool.
Yeah, congratulations to both of you. It's such an achievement. But you talked about how the camera system is so inflexible, right? And yet you talk about how this filmmaking method was so much improv and kind of going along with what was happening. There are times, like as a director or cinematographer, where just if someone doesn't hit their mark or they go a different way, don't banana the right way, the shot's dead. And so can you speak a little bit more specifically about how you were able to adapt on the fly and prepare for whatever was to happen, even with such a rigid camera system?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question, definitely. I mean, I think you just had to be loose about it. And the good thing was that there's such a communication with the actors and with, with the camera team, Colin Anderson, the operator, and Sara, the first AC, all that. It's just myself, and it was just like, there was like, okay, all right, let's go a little over here and try this, or let's go over here and try this. And it wasn't like, we had gotten to a point where we kind of worked out like, okay, this is how we can go to handheld mode. And we had a great dolly grip who was all over it. And it was like, we got to the point where we were spinning the plates well enough that we could get the fluidity that Paul was looking for, given the antiquity of the system, I guess I would say. But it was just all about, having a couple of little things that I have close that could just be like, okay, let's just fire this up and we'll just get this little thing here or whatever. But a lot of times there wasn't a lot, we integrated a ton of lighting into the set, practicals and things like that. And so, but it was never like, oh, we didn't get it, we're screwed. You'd just be like, hey, I think we could improve this by this, this, and this. And everyone's open to it. It was very collaborative on that end, even though it was like, we were moving a mile a minute. But yeah. Did that answer your question? Hopefully.
We have time for one more. Yes, right here.
You mentioned earlier being open to mistakes. I'm curious if there were any moments where maybe there was a happy accident that really changed the creative process.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's like daily. I mean, I'll sit there and tell you a bunch of it. Like, okay, so like the scene where Leo and Sensei go into his apartment and they're going through, and this is the time he's set up to make the second phone call to the guy, to Comer and Josh. And he goes over to the window and he's going to close the curtains. Well, the curtains are rigged like shit. And so the curtains fell down. And that was just like, okay, whoa. And it was hilarious. And he just went with it. And that's the thing that was so great about Leo and the cast, was that they could take whatever was in front of them and just make magic and just roll with it. And the team was just like, yeah, cool. And unless Paul called cut for some reason, we just keep going. And there was just dozens of situations like that. Like the scene at the beginning when he's in the history class and he's going to the parent teacher conference, and so we had shot the scene and all this, and Anthony Carlino, the set decorator, he's like, well, it's a history room. I should put some pictures of presidents up here. And, and all of a sudden, we've done several takes, and then Leo did a performance where he's like, oh, you got Ben Franklin there, and you got the Grand Lizard, and all this kind of stuff. And it's all off camera. We don't cut to it. We don't show it. It's none of that. Those are all but the performance is so strong. And that just came from the fact that there's just this stuff up there. And it's just like, you had to create an environment where the actors could just jump on that and just run with whatever. Like if there's something sitting over there, it's like, okay, cool. We're going to run with that, Like, yeah, there's a million situations like that in the film. And I think that just kind of helps some of the energy of it.
No, second, we were also blessed with the best cast at the
Yeah,
time. And
totally.
they were having so much fun with it as well. So I think when they did get on a roll, you just want to let them go forever. There's a lot of magic in there.
Great. Well, yeah, that's all the time we have. Thank you again so much for sharing a little bit.
Thank you.